Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a chapter that tackles one of the most powerful, heavy, and honestly misunderstood concepts in global politics: security. Specifically, we're exploring the source material on security in the contemporary world. Now, you hear the term national security thrown around all the time, right? Politicians use it, news anchors drop it constantly, and a lot of times it's used as a total conversation stopper. Like it's a phrase implying an issue is just too secret or way too important for us ordinary citizens to even debate. But as you'll see, it is absolutely our business. We're basically gonna peel back this topic like an onion today. We'll start off by decoding the word security, move right into traditional military threats, explore the internal security dilemma, shift gears towards human security, and finally look at new dangers like terrorism. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, decoding the word security. I really want you to ask yourself, what exactly does security mean to you? When you strip away all those shadowy Hollywood spy movies, the secret agents, the dramatic government situation rooms, what is it at a fundamental level? Well, at its absolute most basic, the source text tells us that security implies freedom from threats. But man, that opens up a pretty massive can of worms, doesn't it? Because let's do a quick absurdity check here. Human existence is literally full of threats. But if every single threat counted as a national security issue, we'd be completely paralyzed. Every time you step out of your front door, there's a degree of threat to your existence. You could get robbed, you could trip on the sidewalk, get caught in a crazy storm. If we took a view that broad, our world would be totally saturated with security issues. We just can't classify every single daily danger that way. So scholars have to draw a line somewhere, right? They define security as relating only to extremely dangerous threats to core values, threats that would cause damage beyond repair if they were left unchecked. Now, this elegantly narrows down the definition, which is great, but it immediately begs a massive, completely crucial question. Whose core values are we actually protecting? The governments, the countries, or the ordinary people walking down the street? Which brings us to Section 2, the traditional military threat. Let's look at the external idea of state security. This image brilliantly illustrates a massive paradox in the traditional view. Notice the heavily armed soldier literally riding a giant dove of peace. In the traditional view of security, the greatest danger is a military threat from another country, something that endangers a nation's sovereignty, its independence, its borders. But think about it. Military action is so often used to enforce peace, which inherently endangers the lives of the exact ordinary citizens it claims to be protecting. War isn't just dangerous for soldiers on a battlefield, it's the ordinary men and women who often become the targets. So, the crucial point here is that governments traditionally have three basic choices when threatened by war. Number 1, surrender. Though, let's be real, no government is going to advertise that policy. Number 2, deterrence. This means preventing an attack by promising to raise the costs to a totally unacceptable level for the enemy. And number 3, defense. Actually fighting back when war breaks out to defeat the attacker. Because of this dynamic, traditional security leans heavily into deterrence and defense to protect national sovereignty. And a massive part of that deterrence, it's the balance of power. Look at this cartoon of the Nuclear Powers Club. World leaders sitting comfortably with atomic smoke just hovering right above them, while other nations are cautiously approaching. It's like a high-stakes game. When countries look around, they notice who's bigger, who's stronger. To prevent future aggression, nations work incredibly hard to build up their military, economic, and technological might. They're constantly trying to stay ahead and maintain a favorable balance of power against potential future threats. Moving a bit deeper, here is Section 3, the internal security dilemma. Let's see how the situation built up for newly independent countries, particularly those in Asia and Africa post-colonization. While the major powers in Europe were mainly sweating over each other during the Cold War, the security challenges for these newly independent nations were entirely different. They found themselves quarreling over borders and territories pretty much immediately after gaining independence. The source material outlines that these governments had to face a severe dual threat. It wasn't just the prospect of external conflicts with neighboring countries. They also had to worry about internal military conflicts over control of their own populations. In so many cases, these internal conflicts, civil wars, separatist movements, they posed a threat that was just as dangerous, maybe even more so, than an attack from some external superpower. All right, let's slow things down just a bit for Section 4, shifting to human security. This is a major pivot in our explainer.
We are shifting completely away from traditional states and zooming right in on individuals. Let's walk through this really stark contrast. Traditional state security focuses on protecting territory, borders, and governing institutions. Simple enough. But human security, that is about protecting individuals, communities, and humankind from a wide range of dangers. As the 1994 UNDP Human Development Report pointed out, the whole concept of security has for way too long been tied strictly to nation-states rather than people. The stark reality is this: protecting a state's borders from foreign attack absolutely does not automatically guarantee the safety or security of the people actually living inside them. Take a look at this rhetorical question posed directly from the margins of our source text. Who decides about my security? Some leaders and experts? Can I decide what is my security? That really makes you pause, doesn't it? It takes this abstract, super academic geopolitical concept like global defense strategy and makes it deeply undeniably personal. I mean, if you don't have food, shelter, or safety from violence right in your own neighborhood, the fact that your country's borders are heavily guarded might not mean a whole lot to your daily survival. And that brings us to the final, widest layer of our security onion. Section 5, new dangers like terrorism. The text defines terrorism very clearly. It is political violence that targets civilians deliberately and indiscriminately. This is a primary, textbook example of a non-traditional threat. These groups seek to force political change by using public unhappiness and outright terror as a weapon against governments. We aren't talking about traditional armies trying to capture a border. We're talking about groups targeting the daily, ordinary lives of people just to create a pervasive climate of fear. Consider this incredibly striking visual metaphor of the offspring of war. We're looking at a massive sleeping pig labeled war, and feeding from it are these smaller piglets labeled terrorism. It's visceral, right? And it perfectly connects our earlier points about traditional military conflicts to the emergence of these modern, non-traditional threats. War and instability literally breed the conditions where terrorism and human insecurity can thrive. So, to summarize the whole journey we've taken through this chapter, we started with the traditional core of the security onion, protecting national borders and sovereignty with tanks, deterrence, and a balance of power. But then we expanded outwards. We saw that in our contemporary world, security absolutely has to mean protecting human beings in their daily lives from internal conflicts, systemic dangers, and non-traditional threats like terrorism. And understanding this shift, it matters immensely, because how a society defines security dictates exactly where it puts its resources and its focus. I'm going to leave you with this incredibly thought-provoking quote found right in the margins of the text. War is all about insecurity, destruction, and deaths. How can a war make anyone secure? Just take a few moments to absorb that. It challenges our entire baseline assumption of what keeps us safe, and it really asks us to reimagine a world where security isn't just about endlessly preparing for war, but actively cultivating conditions for human peace. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning what security really means to you, and I'll catch you next time.